old nigga. Too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that. If it ain't live, it ain't me. Old nigga, too deaf to listen, too shy to slip and slide. I'm too hard to fall apart. I'm too cold to get old. I'm too hip to trip. I do it to 'em like this. I wanna load it up, knock back, don't miss. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Got the preacher wife talking about rock that.
All right, and we are back. It is HMW Sports Talk Live. Welcome to the show. I'm Craig Shelton from HoustonMediaWatch.com. That is HMW, man. That's the acronym. We are Houston's media watchdogs. We cover the teams, but we also cover the media and how they track and cover the teams. And man, when I tell you the media just loves us for turning the eye of scrutiny on the scrutinizer, you just have no idea how much we are appreciated around this town. How about that big bold lie? That's Angelo Lawford. That's Richard Big Walker. Those are guys from HMW, some of the finest bloggers you will find anywhere. If you want to tackle anything from media to sports to, hey, man, pop culture, we got it. We got it. All you got to do is test it. Just tweet it. Tweet at us. Hit us. You know, you can get at me on Facebook. You can get at me on Twitter. It's Craig Shelton, HMW on Twitter. If you catch me on Twitter, I'll tell you how to follow my alter ego, and we'll line you up with all of the guys. How about that? We were talking about the winter baseball meetings and the proposal for rules changes. We are going to jump over and get into some NFL. Got some NBA stuff for you on the docket here today. Look at the black guy from the hood using the word docket. But I want to jump back on this one final thought on the baseball winter meetings and this proposed rule changes. Catchers not proposing that catchers not be allowed to block home plate, and got some sub bullet points retrospective to that. But this is all about head injuries, folks. This is all about money. That's what everything in life is about. And it seems to me that Major League Baseball, at minimum, wants to get things on the table and start working toward maybe some culture changes. And I don't know that it's going to happen next year, or next 5 or 10 years. But in a sport where it has a self-policing culture, where it's okay to throw 100-mile-an-hour projectile at a person's head, headgear for batters, it will be on the table at some point. I don't know that it'll ever make it, but either a sport that has governed itself with its own on-the-field rules and locker room rules, which I'm perfectly all right with it. That's the way we should be, you know. But in a league that has operated in that fashion, well, what you had better do is self-police your own culture
Yeah.
and pull it back some.
Right.
Because if you continue to throw balls at folks, this stuff is going to take on some momentum because you know how this works. Once something is introduced, now every incident that happens on a baseball field
Roll legs.
where somebody is hitting the head with a baseball, how about pitchers on the mound 45 feet away? Is it 45 feet? I think 45 feet away.
It's 90. It's
60.
60 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, 60 feet. Where did I get 45 feet from? I don't know. 60 feet away. How many times do we see pitchers get hit by baseballs?
Line drive
Right.
to the face.
Line drives coming off of bats. Excuse me. So every incident now is going to be played up
Right.
bigger than it is. And who am I to say how big it is? I'm not the one getting hit in the head with a hard ball, with a fastball off the tip of a elite athlete's bat. But that's what's going to happen now.
Yep.
It's out there. It's on the record. So now every incident is going to be played up on ESPN, played up on Fox, played up on every network, and that's just the way it goes. Okay, we'll move on. Richard Walker, when I asked him to comment on the baseball proposal, he said, well, I'll just quote one thing he said: Major League Baseball, you have lost your damn mind. Might that same sentence be applicable to one Mike Shanahan, Richard Walker? Has Mike Shanahan, is he trying to reinvent football, does he just completely think that everyone is an idiot? Has the PR train gone too far in sports to where coaches just get up and tell blatant lies? Everybody knows what line. Is this China pretending not to point nuclear weapons at the USA, and we're pretending not to point them at China, and they pretend not to know, and we pretend? I mean, come on.
We don't
this is
spy on each other or
ridiculous.
none of that. Of course.
We're gonna set a guy. We're gonna okay. I'm sorry, folks. If you don't know, Washington Redskins head coach Mike Shanahan made the determination that he was going to bench his second-year quarterback Robin Griffin Jr. from Baylor, Heisman Trophy winner. He's going to bench the guy, and he says the reason that he's going to bench him is because he needs to think about the next 10 years. What's best for the team over the next 10 years? This may take more than a segment.
Yeah, this might take a while.
You also need to know, if you're not familiar with the backstory, is that those guys do not have the best relationship. Robert Griffin Jr. and Mike Shanahan just don't have the greatest relationship. Richard, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I'm going to modify my previous comment. When I said baseball lost their damn mind, Mike Shanahan was about to lose his damn job, first of all.
Well, and he may want to lose his job. That's part of this. That theory.
And I think that's part of where he's going with this, because it makes no sense for him to make the change now. Your season was over 3-4 weeks ago. If you're really in the interest of protecting your franchise quarterback and looking forward to the future, you were eliminated from the playoffs 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's when you start talking about making a change. That's where you start, introducing the idea of bringing Kirk Cousins in. And as the season's been going along, to me, it's almost as if he turned a blind eye to RG3. Because if you look at the way he called plays, he did very little to protect him. He did very little to give him opportunities to even make plays specifically in the pocket. I watched some of their film. It's like he's calling the offense the same way he did last year. You got a player coming off a devastating injury. To me, I'm looking at more 3 tight end sets, more 2-back sets. I'm looking at shorter passing routes. I'm looking to make sure that I take care of this guy, because this is my franchise quarterback. I have a vested interest in him. So to say that he's benching RG3 in his best interest at this point is a bunch of BS. I think he's on his way out the door. He's kicking the Redskins in the behind on the way out.
First 8 games of the season, RG3 was sacked 14 times. In the last 5 games, he's been sacked 24 times. That from 4% to 12%. The Redskins are 3-10. RG3 has 3,203 yards passing. He's got an 82.2 QBR, which is 26 in the NFL. Can you look at those numbers, and if you want to argue on behalf of Mike Shanahan, can you argue that he's doing the right thing? The guy's been sacked 4 times in the last 5 games after being sacked 14 times in the first 8 games, 4% of the time, up to 12% of the time. Is there an argument to be made that for whatever reason, whether it's RG3 not being the same guy, Mike Shanahan, like Richard said, not calling plays effectively and designing schemes to protect him more? Can you make an argument for him?
Well, I can't really make an argument for what Shanahan is doing. And I tell you what, this goes back to last season. It's almost like, for lack of a better word, it's like sabotage against RG3. This benching should have happened last year in the playoffs when he was hurt, when everybody knew that he was just one hit away.
Excellent point.
Right? So and why Mike Shanahan at this point isn't being held more accountable for that decision at this stage kind of is mind-boggling to me. So I think this is something that goes on from last year. So the numbers indicate that maybe it is a wise move in theory, but just when you look at the facts and understand how this relationship has gone over the past year, I can't really support Mike Shanahan's choice right now. And I'll say that I'm kind of disappointed in the media, because when I do hear like scrutiny and criticism of RG3 in this particular season, that caveat of what happened last season seems to be subtracted from anybody's opinion. So I'm kind of, I don't really understand Mike Shanahan. And frankly, if Gary Kubiak is gone right now, I think Shanahan should have been gone even before Gary Kubiak, even though you're talking about 2 different situations.
A few more numbers before we get to the conspiracy theory, something where Richard Walker will have a lovely time with. RG3 with 12 interceptions, that's 9th worst in the NFL. That's 1 more interception than Cam Newton and 1 less interception than Peyton Manning. 2 quarterbacks that are having good years.
Right.
Just thought kind of interesting deal there. So here's a conspiracy theory. Now, is Mike Shanahan possibly auditioning Kirk Cousins to be a part of a scenario where Mike Shanahan gets himself fired and goes after the Texans job and maybe makes a push to bring Kirk Cousins along with him, Richard?
That's kind of a tough theory to follow, because if you're trying to audition...
Excuse me, I'm going to stab myself in the face.
If you're going to audition for another job, you want to show that you can be effective.
Houston, my God.
I think Mike Shanahan is just showing that he's pretty incoherent right now. He's very inconsistent in the way he's managing the team. He's lost the players clearly, and that's one of the things to me as an owner. If nothing else, if you're losing but your players are behind you and they're still fighting hard and they're still trying to win, I can see me possibly looking at your track record and say, okay, well, he just had a bad season. Let's give the guy a shot. This guy is completely lost. He lost everybody in that Redskins organization, including RG3. So, like I said before, I think he's on his way out. I think he may be looking at an extended break from coaching, and this may be something that he wants. Maybe he's just burned out, because I saw a report that he had indicated that he was thinking about quitting last year as they got closer to the playoffs, and then they got on their winning streak, and then suddenly he got revitalized. But I think he's on his way out, and like I said before, he at this point, I don't know if he just doesn't care or doesn't get it, but it's clear that he's trying to inflict some harm upon the Redskins before he leaves.
The interesting thing about that offense that Mike Shanahan runs and the offense that the Texans run here, Washington is 2nd in the league in rushing with 143 yards a game, 27th in the lead in passing. It just doesn't make sense when you think about the way that offense operates, because it's predicated on the run and the play action pass.
Right.
And they're top of the league running the ball, but at the same time, the passing game is not getting off the ground. And I think what we've seen from RG3 this season, obviously physically he's not the same guy.
Nope.
There's it's not even questionable. He's not the same guy. And it's not all about Mike Shanahan and play calling, because they've got one of the best young play callers in Kyle Shanahan in the league, I believe. I just think that RG3, because of the injury, hasn't been able to progress the way that he needs to progress as a quarterback. Some of it is on RG3. Some of it may be on just the entire culture there. How about that, folks? Hanging there. When we get back, we're going to touch up on some NBA stuff. So hang in there. We got you right here, HMW Sports Talk Live.